So today I'm going to discuss this paper, Statistical Methods for Psychological Research 1, also known as BPCC 104. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you an introduction of this paper. So to start with, the paper, Statistical Methods for Psychological Research 1, is divided mainly into 4 blocks, that is Block 1, Block 2, Block 3, and Block 4. So let us discuss each of these blocks in detail. So coming to Block 1. So Block 1 is the introduction. So this block, which is the introduction block, it comprises of 2 units, that is Unit 1 and Unit 2. Unit 1 is Introduction to Statistics and Unit 2 is Data Organization and Graphical Representation. So under Unit 1, we are going to study the meaning of statistics, the role of statistics in research, limitations and misinterpretation of statistics, scales of measurement, and descriptive and inferential statistics. In Unit 2, under Data Organization and Graphical Representation, we will be discussing classification and tabulation of qualitative and quantitative data, construction of frequency distribution, cumulative frequency distribution, percentile and percentile ranks, and graphical representation of data. So this was all about Unit 1 and Unit 2, which are in Block 1. Now coming to Block 2. Block 2 discusses measures of central tendency and variability. So under this block, which is measures of central tendency and variability, there are basically 3 units. Unit 3, Unit 4, and Unit 5. Unit 3 is Introduction to Measures of Central Tendency. Unit 4 is Introduction to Measures of Variability. And Unit 5 is the computation of measures of variability. In Unit 3, under Introduction to Measures of Central Tendency, we are going to study the concept of central tendency of data, different measures of central tendency, that is mean, median, and mode. Then what are the properties, advantages, and limitations of mean, median, and mode? And lastly, the computation of measures of central tendency in grouped and ungrouped data. In Unit 4, under Introduction to Measures of Variability, we are going to study the concept of variability in the data and the type of measures of dispersion or variability. Then in Unit 5, under computation of measures of variability, we will discuss mainly 4 measures of variability, that is range, quartile deviation, average deviation, and standard deviation. So this was all about Block 2. Then in Block 3, which is about the correlation. So in correlation, we will be studying basically 2 units, that is Unit 6, correlation and introduction, and Unit 7, which is the computation of coefficient of correlation. So in Unit 6, under correlation and introduction, we are going to study the concept of correlation, direction and magnitude of correlation, properties, uses, and limitations of correlation, and other methods of correlation. In Unit 7, under computation of coefficient of correlation, we are going to study Pearson's product moment correlation and Spearman's rank order correlation. So this was all about Block 3. Coming to Block 4. In Block 4, we'll be studying normal probability distribution, which is the most important distribution and has wide variety of uses. So after reading this unit, you will be able to describe the concept and nature of probability, understand the concept, nature, properties, and relevance of normal distribution curve. And not only this, we will also study the standard scores or the Z-scores and divergence from normality, that is skewness and kurtosis. So this was all about the 4 blocks which were used in this paper. Now let us discuss something about the importance of statistics in psychology. So in psychology, we are also confronted with enormous amounts of data. That is, how do changes in one variable impact other variables? Is there a way we can measure that relationship? What is the overall strength of that relationship and what does that mean? How to find the mean in a given set of data? And statistics allows us to answer these kinds of questions. So these kinds of questions we can answer through statistics. So in a nutshell, statistics will allow psychologists to organize data, describe data, and make inferences based on the data. Let us start with a real world example. So a researcher is carrying out a research on emotional intelligence and self-esteem of adolescents in India. For this research, she will collect the data from adolescents, that is both males and females, with the help of standardized tools for emotional intelligence and self-esteem. So the two main variables in this study are emotional intelligence and self-esteem. So after the data collection process is over, the researcher will have to carry out statistical analysis. Based on the objectives and hypotheses of his or her research, the researcher will then use varied statistical techniques to analyze the data. So she could use descriptive statistics, or she may also use inferential statistics. The researcher may compute mean and standard deviation and may even graphically represent the scores. So we will also study what is hypothesis and what is descriptive statistics, inferential statistics in detail as we move along the course. So not only these questions, the researcher may also try to find out the percentage of adolescents with high, moderate, and low emotional intelligence and self-esteem, or may want to compute the mean and standard deviation for males and females with regard to the two variables. The researcher may also choose to study relationship between emotional intelligence and self-esteem, or he or she may try to find out if there exists a significant difference in emotional intelligence and self-esteem with regards to gender. So he may try to answer any sort of questions based on his or her hypothesis. So a researcher may use to choose different statistical techniques based on the objectives and hypothesis of his or her research. So as it is clear from the above example, statistical methods are used in psychological research mainly to analyze data and draw inferences from them. So this was all from my side, and I hope you will enjoy this subject as we move along, and you will find it interesting as to how statistics can be used to solve the problems in psychological research. Thank you for your time. Thanks again.